I grew up in the southern part of the Netherlands, where the Catholic faith is very strong. I never knew my grandmother because she had died before I was born. But she had a sister who never married, and she was like a grandmother to me and my 1 year older sister. At first, we visited her every day. Afterwards I visited her at least twice a week. She was a devout Catholic, and I remember she had a small statue of Mary and the baby Jesus sitting on the mantelpiece. There was a little key on the side, and when you turned it, it would start rotating clockwise, and you'd hear the song, Ave Maria. I only heard that a few times because it was hardly ever used when I was visiting her. But when I was about 8 years old, I had a dream. I didn't know at the time that God was showing me something in this dream. It wasn't a normal dream. It was like a nightmare, yet there was something supernatural about it. In that dream, I was standing on one side of the living room, looking at that little Mary statue. And it was spinning, only now it wasn't spinning clockwise, but counterclockwise. There was also music, but it wasn't Ave Maria. It was a satanic song played on a violin. I've never heard it before or since, it's indescribable. In the dream, I sensed that it was satanic, even though I knew absolutely nothing about Satan or Satanism. As a child, you learn that Satan is someone in a red devil costume. It must have been about 40 years later that I was watching a documentary online. It was about pop music and how Satan uses it, and how musicians are under Satan's control because they sold their souls for success. One part of this music documentary, they sold their souls for rock and roll, explained how Satanism works. Among other things, it mentioned Aleister Crowley. It said he taught people to do the opposite of everything. You had to do everything backwards. For example, you had to write backwards. In the Church of Satan, the Lord's Prayer was read from back to front. All kinds of rituals had to be performed backwards. A clear example is the backward recorded texts that are then incorporated into a song. This is also known as blackmasking. In music production, blackmasking is a technique in which sound or a message is recorded backward on a track that is intended to be played forward. Sometimes it's not so clearly audible, but there are bands like ELO that record this quite clearly. When I heard this explanation of Satanism, I was reminded of that dream in which the figurine turned in the opposite direction. As a child, I knew nothing about Satanism. I knew absolutely nothing, except that the devil was supposedly someone dressed in a red suit. God gave me that dream to show me that this idolatry toward Mary was demonic. Another example dates back to 1973, when I was 8 years old. I went with my father, my uncle, and my nephew to a small town in Belgium where Mary is venerated. The town is called Bannus. I remember that we went into a small church and stood at the back. The church was full of people in wheelchairs, and they were singing the song, Ave Maria. The four of us were standing at the back of the church. There was such a negative, demonic, depressing atmosphere that it made me run outside. I really couldn't stand it, and within a minute I ran outside. I was only 8 years old and didn't want to be alone, but I still waited for about 5 minutes. Then my father, my uncle, and my nephew came outside too. I believe that most children haven't become as spiritually polluted as adults and are therefore much more sensitive to this spiritual world. The Bible speaks about this as well. 1 Corinthians 10 verse 20 But I say, that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils, and not to God. And I would not that ye should have fellowship with devils. 2 Corinthians 11 verse 14. And no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light.